Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to One-on-One, coming to you from the NJTV studio in Newark. The Agnes Veris NJTV studio. It's our pleasure to welcome Leslie Killeen, who is registered dietitian, diabetes educator, Summit Medical Group. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We were talking about this right before we got on the air. Is it childhood obesity that's the epidemic? Teen obesity? What is it?
It's childhood and adolescent.
Break it down.
Obesity.
You said in the last 40-ish years, from the 1970s?
Since the 1970s, we've seen 3 times the amount of incidence of obesity in kids.
Because?
Because we see more sedentary activity. We see very little physical activity. We see screen time in...
more and more screen time.
More and more screen time. The screen time, the average amount of screen time that a child is on a screen, and it starts even before a year old, is 7 hours a day.
7?
7. Recreational screen time, not counting school.
Leslie, what are the implications of this? Someone says, well, you know, kids are heavier, but what does it mean?
So we've already seen kids with type 2 diabetes at a younger age than we used to see. We see kids with fatty liver disease, which is related to too much fat in the diet. Long term, we're going to see more disability in adults.
Why? What's the connection between disability, obesity and disability?
Because kids that are obese tend to be obese adults, and they already have hypertension, cardiovascular disease, cholesterol problems, type 2 diabetes.
And to what degree, I know people don't talk about this very much, to what degree, Leslie, does this add to the overall cost of health care?
It's immense. First of all, there's lost time from work. There's less productivity. We see sleep apnea that's associated with obesity in children, and it goes into adulthood. Poor quality of sleep.
Talk about this. Sorry for interrupting. So parents watching right now say, yes, and I could and should be doing what?
So we have this acronym that was in 2007, Maine, for their obesity prevention initiative, came up with 5210.
5210. By the way, check on our website. We'll have some information on 5210. Break it down.
So we want to encourage children and adults, actually, to have 5 servings of fruits and vegetables in a day. 5
servings, okay.
And
so one of our kids says, Dad, I don't like fruit. And I want, Nick, you know who you are. And we've been trying to force him to do it.
So,
what do you sneak it?
No, sneaking's not the best way. The best way is to learn tastes. And we're not going to all like all the fruits and all the vegetables that are available, but we can't all not like all the fruits and the vegetables that are there either.
That's right.
And exposure, studies show that exposure to something at least 10 times.
This is the 5-10. You do 5-2.
So for the 5 fruits and vegetables, you're saying how to get someone to eat a vegetable. When was the last time you tasted this vegetable? Take 2 bites.
Try it.
Try it. There's a division of responsibility around food. Caretakers and parents are responsible for providing healthy food, where and when and how much. The child's going to decide whether they're going to eat it or not. There's no negotiating.
It's interesting. And listen, first of all, there's an economic issue here in terms of, you know, we've done a lot of work on food insecurity issues and food deserts in terms of getting fresh fruit and vegetables. It's not really a different issue. It's complicated because there are those who are not getting the healthy food they need, particularly in urban or rural, poorer areas. Is the obesity problem worse there?
In some of the heaviest states are the poorest states, because the food that's the cheapest to get is the highest in added fats and sugars.
And processed foods?
And processed foods. So we're seeing children, which we didn't see 35 years ago, that are obese but malnourished.
Obese but malnourished.
So they're not getting adequate vitamins and minerals, adequate antioxidants, but they're getting tons of energy from added fats and added sugars.
You know, the notes here, when you were talking to our producers, you talked a lot about autistic children. What is the connection between autistic children and the need for certain nutrients?
So with autistic children, that's a whole flip side of what we're kind of talking about it. They have sensory issues. So there's limited food acceptance in kids with autism at times. So, for example, a kid might like something that's just crunchy. So a kid who only wants something that's crunchy, he's not going to eat a sandwich. He may only eat one food group. So it's a lot of patience on the caretaker's part. It's a lot of repetition of providing some kind of a new food with familiar foods. It's lack of attention of wanting to be at the table much longer to finish eating. So
how do you help parents? Sorry for interrupting. How do you help parents with children on the autism spectrum when it comes to food and nutrition, given those challenges?
So we try to figure out which textures that child likes.
Which textures?
Which textures they like or what tastes they like. Sometimes kids don't want their food to touch. Sometimes they want to be involved in how that food is being put on the plate. It's difficult, especially for a caretaker, because we're feeders. That's our job as caretakers, is to feed our children. So it's difficult to be patient, and it's difficult sometimes to just say, okay, we're not going to make this be a negotiation. Eat what you can today, and tomorrow we'll introduce that new food again. It's best to not make a huge deal out of it. For all instances with guiding children how to eat, we have to be good role models.
We can't just say it, we have to live it.
Right. So we have to be in front of that child eating the same things that we're expecting them to eat.
Minute left. The peanut allergy issue, update us.
So it was very interesting with the peanut allergy. We used to restrict people, kids and infants, from peanuts if they had a first-degree relative that had a peanut allergy. And recent studies indicated in 2017 what came out was we are actually influencing these peanut allergies.
How?
Because we're not introducing people to the peanut. And then it becomes a higher allergic reaction. So the new recommendations are that a child that has a high risk, and usually how we'll find out if they have a high risk is if they have eczema and or an egg allergy, they should be tested, their blood tested, to see if they have an immunoglobulin to peanut allergy.
Whoa, that last,
An immunoreaction to peanut allergy. So
is it dangerous to find out that they have the reaction, or is that a reaction that can be managed?
That's a reaction that can be managed.
I want to make sure that we're accurate with that.
We don't want to introduce a peanut to a high-risk infant.
The risk-reward isn't worth it.
Right. So what we would do is if they didn't have an allergy, we would introduce it at like 4 to 6 months when we're starting solids.
Leslie, thank you.
You're welcome.
Important issues that are not talked about enough. You helped a lot of people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is One on One. I'm Steve Adubato. Stay with us.